Hello, everyone. What we're going to be talking about today is the penetration testing project. In your training, you've learned many things, including scanning, enumeration, exploitation, and it's time to put some of that knowledge into practice. So, from my experience, I've seen places that aim to do one thing. They want to find the vulnerabilities before bad people, before the real attackers will get there. So this script, this entire project is based on being able to find vulnerabilities and other problematic situations in your network in order to solve them before the other people, the bad people, will find them. So what is this operation order is all about is most security checks and penetration testing should be automated. Now, if you think about it, once it's automated, you can all the time improve it. You can all the time make it run, every 2 weeks, every month, and then be able to figure out what else is a problem in your network. And of course, this script, once it just runs, it will be able to just find everything for you without somebody really sitting in front of the computer all the time, trying to figure out, finding the time, or did he remember to put this command or the other. So with this project, you will be able to just create something, then be able to just run it on the network and find the vulnerabilities afterwards. So let's start by understanding the vision is cyber units can automate finding vulnerabilities in local networks. The mission is to map the network devices for ports, services, and vulnerabilities. The strategy, how we're going to do it, we're going to create an automation to map the services and the vulnerability on the entire local network. Objective, scan the network for ports and services. Map the vulnerabilities and look for login weak passwords. Let's start. We're going to go one by one. Some of the things I'm going to show you how to do. Some of the things I'm sure you'll be able to already do it by yourself after all the training you've gone through. Let's start. So the first part is going to be is about getting the user input. Now remember, this project, this entire automation that you're going to be building here is for a user to run, whether it's the CISO, whether it's the security information chief officer, whether it's some security person inside the organization, maybe it's even the IT person, the administrator, and they will run it and try to get as much information on their network before anyone else. So what kind of information do we need to get from the user? We need to get the user the network to scan. We need to get from the user the name of the output directory. Remember, everything is going to be saved into a directory for more analysis. So we're going to get this from the user. Allow the user to choose basic or full. Now look at this one for basics. Scan the network for TCP and UDP. This is what, if the user chooses basic, this is what's going to happen. And we're going to be including service version and weak passwords. You should know at this point what this means. And with full, we're going to be including to the basic scans, then Nmap scripting engine, weak passwords, and vulnerability analysis. 1.4 is make sure the input is valid. What does that mean? That means if my user gave me an IP that is not valid, we'll look at some situations where this comes into place. And if it's not valid, we want to tell the user, look, you gave us something wrong, try again. So let's start by this. I'll just do it from this area. I'll start with one and we will move forward. So in order to get a range from someone, I'm sure you're able to do it. In order to get the output directory, I'm sure you can do it. Let me just focus on the basic and full. I know you can already do it by yourself, but let me help you just to give you some thoughts. So if I want to just ask the user for this, again, everything I like to put in comments, so it's in front of my eyes, in front of me, and then I can just work with it. Now remember, you are the engineer. You decide whatever you want. This is the entire concept for the projects, for you to start thinking, how do you want to build it? How would your users use it? Are you making it easy for them? Are you making it tough for them? And at this point, what you want to be able to do is first make it functional, right? Like that it's operating. And then afterwards you can, little by little make it better, improve your code, add things to your code, but remember, use also comments. The comments will help you that even if you didn't touch the code for 3 months, 4 months afterwards, you can go back inside and just see what you did. Why did you do it? Because you have the comments, it will be much easier for you to understand. So with allowing the user to choose basic or full, you will decide how do you want to do it. Do you want to use the if condition, right? You're going to get an input from the user. Do you want to use case? Do you want to use if? Let me just use case for this sake, just in order, because it will also help us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say read -p, and I'm going to say choose. Let me say, again, you can do it whatever you want. I'm just using it for something that will jump to my eyes. So I'm going to say choose basic or full, right? So if the user will give me capital B or capital F, then I'll know what is their intentions, basic or full. Good. Let me just do something like this, and let me just put it into check, right? I'm just, again, creating a variable to intercept whatever the user will choose. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say case check in, and then I can just put here, let me just do capital B, capital F, and let me just do this friend, which means everything else, and I'm going to close it, and I'm going to just do ESEC, right? It's the reverse of case. Good. Let me just see that it works for me. I'm just going to put this one, I'm going to put this one, I'm going to put this one, right? In order to close it with bash, we need to, at the end of every option that the user will choose, we will have to close whatever it is that we want to happen. So let me just do here, let me just do echo B was chosen. Let me just do this to this. I was just, again, every time that I write something, I like to check, that it just everything works. There's no issues here. So let me just go here, terminal. I'm in Kali, so let me just do bash and vulner. Good. Choose B. B was chosen. I can see there's no errors. I can move forward. Good. All right. So at this point, allow the user to choose between basic and full. I'm sure you'll be able to manage from here. Let's continue. Make sure the input is valid. All right. So what is our input? Let's think about it for a second. The user is going to give us, look at this, get from the user the network to scan. So the user is going to give us an IP slash something, and we want to be able to check if that number, if that IP is correct. I'll give you an example, okay? If the user, let me just check, let me just take this again, I'm going to put it into a comment. So let me just put it over here. Good. Make sure the input is valid. So for example, don't be afraid of putting comments, right? The more comments you put, also it's good for you to look at things and to understand better. So for example, if the user is going to give you 2.2, let's just do 8.8.8, right? This is a valid IP. What if he types fast and he does something like this? That's also an input, but it's going to, if you're going to take it and send it to Nmap, it's going to give you errors. So you want to validate whatever it's going to give you. So what I would suggest, I'm going to show you 2 ways that goes in my mind right now. Afterwards, you can play with it. Now remember, the user is going to give you a range, which means, how does a range look like? A range would look either like, let's say 8.8.8.8, we'll say 0 till 255, sure. Either it's going to look like /24, right? And it can also look is for this, right? There's like a lot of the things that a range can be given, but these are the ways to do it. Now, if it was just an IP, if it was just one IP, then I would just say, look, what you want to do is, because an IP has to be between 0 to 255, 0 to 255, 0 to 255, 0 to 255, then I would just say I would just say validate. I'll just say something like this. What is the problem? Let me try just here so you will be able to see. I'll say, let me just give an example here. So let me just do 9.9.9.9, and this will just echo this, right? So let me just do something. What if I do something like TR? You've learned TR before. TR is translate. What it will do is we'll just change whatever you give it. So I'm going to say change this dot to, for example, go down a line, right? /n goes down a line, so it will just show it like this. Then if you can do something like this, right? That you change all the dots to go down a line, and if there's 4 lines, then that's already one check that you can do. So you have 4 octets, right? Another thing that you can do is just say something even before this. You can say, let's grep and make sure that the beginning, let me just make sure that it's clear. Okay, I'll just do first thing echo by itself. Look what this thing telling us. Grep and the roof sign, and then I'm going to say 0 till 9 in square brackets, right? Then it will grep only if the line starts with a number. This is like a good way to get something to start with a number. So I can just do something. So if you just look at this command, this is what it's going to do. It's going to echo this. Okay, let me just change it, because this one is just a second. Let me just go like this, right? And then I'm going to tell it grep only if it starts with 0 till 9. So over here, you can see that it's grepping it, and then I can do WC, right? And but this would be for an IP. Let me just put it inside the comment, so it will just stay here. If it was just one IP, this probably can be a good check, right? I can just say, if this is true, right? If there's something back from this, or if it's 4, then it's okay, continue. But this is not the case. And it's like you will go into deeper things. You have to like think about different, again, you can do it yourself, you can do it manually. But let me just show you something very easy to make your life easier. And probably the best thing and the simplest thing would be using Nmap itself. If I just go here and I just type Nmap, you will see that Nmap has, where are you hiding? -SL. Look at this. So what this does is will just give you a list to the targets to scan. So if you're talking now an entire range, it will just give you all the IPs. Look how nice this is. Let's, for example, just do Nmap to, we will say 888888, and I'm going to say /24. And you know what, let me just first show you. Okay, let me just do like this. Sure, why not? SL, look what happened. It gave us this entire thing, right? It just gave me all this output. Why did it give me this output? It was able to, you know, like to list all the IPs here. And of course, I can awk $NF and just get the last column. But the idea here, is that with Nmap, I can also do validation. Look what happens here. If I remove this 8 by mistake, like I just typed fast, and then I did enter, I would get failed. So what stops me from just using this simple thing? And again, this is what cyber is all about, to think outside the box. Don't try to, like I've told my students forever, we want to make things simple as possible. If you do it something, you know, complicated, it's okay, you can do it, it's fine. But we don't like to work hard, people. We want to think, and this kind of thing is like simple, and it will give us whatever it is that we need. So -SL will give us the IPs, and over here what I'm going to do is I can easily say, let me just go back in here and get some input from the user, right? I can just say, let's just use this one, right? So let's just say check in let's say B, so it's going to choose basic. Let me just do this, read -P. Let me just do something like this. Again, all this I'm just putting just in order to, be nice on the screen, on the terminal. And I'm going to say, enter a range to scan. And then I'm going to say, let me say range. Okay. Then I can do the following. I can say, I can do exactly what I've done here. So let me just do, I can just do nmap with SL. Let me just do it here. So I can do if when you grep, look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to just put this here for a second, then phi, right? So this is going to be like a validator. I'm going to put it in a function in a second. In the meantime, I just want to just make sure that you understand what I'm trying to do. The user gave us a range. Let's just say, for example, range will be either 8888/24 or 88 or something like this, just in order to show that it's not a valid IP or something that nmap can't work with. So if what I'm going to say is I'm going to just do something like this. I'm going to say nmap to $range -SL, right? I want to see if it's able to do it. And I'm going to say, you know what, after you do this, grep the word, look at this. What word does it show here? It's going to say failed to resolve. I can just look for the word failed. If failed, you know what, I can just take the whole thing. Failed to resolve. Failed to resolve is, exactly what it is that we need. So I'm just going to put it like this, and I'm going, oopsie, I'm going to just do like this. And I'm going to say nmap range SL, then grep this. Now, if this comes back not empty, then it's okay. If it comes back not empty, it means there's a problem, right? It means the IP that I gave wasn't good. Let's just try to see if this is correct. So I'm going to just let me just put an echo if this is not empty, which means there was failed to resolve. It grabbed something. Then I can say echo, we'll just do like this and say wrong input. Try again, or let's say run again. And I'm going to say exit. Sure, why not? Let me just run it just to show how this thing looks like. Let me just hear this. Bash vulner. I'm going to say basic. It's going to ask me for a range to scan. And let's give it 888. Okay, let's give it the wrong one because we want to see that it's failing. And look at this. It says failed to resolve. No targets were specified. Okay. So it executed this and then it's displaying it here. I wanted to say wrong input. Let me try. Okay, I understand what this is. Okay, let me explain to you what happened. Let me first just put here the else so you understand better. The else also can help me to figure out why I didn't get whatever I wanted. So let me just do echo. Let me just say plus. We'll say, let's make this a minus and say input was correct or range was correct. Continuing. Okay, continuing, something like this. All right. Okay, let's continue. Good. So let me just run it again. I want you to see it. What I wanted you to see is I'm going to go here at this time, and I'll explain to you in a second why. I'm going to give it the wrong range, right? I'm going to say .888. I'm going to say 24, and look at this. There's two things that you need to see here. First, we are failing to resolve. Well, we said, wait a second, if it's going to fail, we should have, got this error. And then we said no targets, and then it says range was correct, let's continue. This is why I put here the else. The thing is, the reason you're seeing this is because the output that comes here isn't the regular output. It's not just, this comes out as an error. Again, I'm going to say it. This thing over here comes out as an error. It doesn't come as a regular output, which means even if I'm going to say, you know what, let me just show it to you like this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna put this over here, and I'm gonna save this into a file, right? Let me just do something like check. I'm putting it into a dot file, so it's going to be hidden, right? Dot in the beginning of the file is hidden. So let me just do like this, cat dot check. So if the file is not empty, right? I'm just going to cat it now. If the file is not empty, which means we did find something, then wrong input. I want you to see, probably this will be a very easy way to explain. Again, B, and we're going to put this thing over here. You're going to see again the same thing. You're going to see failed to resolve, and you're going to see zero host, range was correct, let's continue, which is kind of a problem. Now, if you remember from your previous training, you should know that there is two kinds of outputs. There's a regular output, which is a 1, which is a default outcome. And then there's number 2, which is the error. And what you're seeing here is error. It's not a regular output. It's not a 1, it's a 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put here 2, means direct the errors into check, which is actually exactly what it is that we wanted. And we can see here that all the errors are going to go into .check exactly from there. But the output, the error, look at this, it's going to execute this. It's going to be a pipe, and then it's going to do the grep over here. So these errors are going to come from grep, but the problem isn't in the grep. The problem is with the nmap command, right? Because this is where the error is coming from. So what I can do is I can just take this and put this here. Actually, I can just even kick this grep field. And what will happen here is then what I'm going to do is all the errors are going to come into check, but you will see that if it's a correct output, it's going to be a problem, because then it's going to be thrown to the screen. Let's just check it out. Let me just run this. I'm going to do B, and let's first give it a wrong output, and we'll say 24, and you can see this. Now, pay attention. There's a few things to look here. Too many arguments, and this is because I didn't put here the double quotes. Let me just fix this and go back in here and then do it again. /24, and you can see that this time I did not get this error, but this is correct. This is fine, but it gave me this output. So the thing is, I can save this output. I can just add the regular output. Remember, this is like a 1. So let me just put here a 1 and say, let me save it into scan, because I can also use it. Because what if it's a correct IP? Let's just check it out. Let's just check now, correct IP. And I'm going to say /24. Pay attention. This time it is okay. I'm going to hit enter, and this is good. It's going to say range was correct. Let's continue. And you're able to see that all the details all the IPs over here were saved into scan. Let me just show and do scan, and you'll be able to just see it's all there. All right, we're going to do a small jump. I don't like the fact that what we have here is this entire check in the middle of this case where we still need this, and we're going to be using it a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of this inside a function. So the check is going to be, like in a different place in the script. So I can go there, edit if I need anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut everything. Let me also do it from here. Let me create a function here, and we'll call it function, and we'll say validate. Okay, something like this. And I can just put like this. And what I'm going to do here, look carefully. Now I have to just call this function. So let me just go here and go here, right? So let's just see that it works. Every change you do, run a check, see that it is working for you. And we'll do B, we'll say 8888, we'll say 24, and we can see that it's correct. Let me just do another check for .8888, 24, and you can see wrong input, run again. Very good. So all this, we can move on, we can move forward to whatever it is that we need. Again, this was just a simple example how to validate different things. Again, anything that you can come up, any idea that you will have, is perfect. Why? Because the more you challenge yourself to think, it's exactly where we want to head up with this kind of projects. Let's continue. So we talked about this. We created functions for both basic and full. And let's talk about weak credentials. So looking for weak passwords used in the network login services. Let's just do this. Okay, so now we have validate when it's going to be, right? It's going to call it when it's going to be. And now what we want to talk about is the weak credentials. So let's just think through. One of the things that we would want to do is to scan the network for both TCP and UDP. And I'm reminding you that scanning the network with Nmap for UDP can take a very long time. That's why we have masscan. Let me just remind you about masscan. So let's use the network range. Let me see what my network range is. Let me say hostname -I. So this is my network. Let me just do something like, let me just do nmap 192.168.244.128, right? I can just do 24 and it will start scanning everything. I'm reminding you, default is 1000. You want to make your code run all the different ports. Now this is only TCP. What about UDP? Well, if I'm just going to look at nmap help menu, it's going to tell you that you can use SU over here, UDP scan. But I'm already telling you, it's going to take a while just because the way UDP works compared to TCP. But you've seen this already before, and this is the time for you to play and use masscan for this kind of example, but it will scan and it will go through things. What I'm going to do, I'm going to continue over here because the TCP and UDP, I'm counting on you to do it properly. So when you look for weak passwords for login services, that means you have a few ways to do it. Let me just put here another comment and just do this. Look for weak passwords. So the longer way is to scan and to go through, and you can see here over here, it tells you it's SSH, RDP, FTP, and Telnet. Now, if you want to do even more, there's a lot more. I mean, how much a lot more? You can either go to Hydra and see over here all the supported services, or you can go into Medusa and look at the supported services. Right, I think it's -D, yes. So let me just do this -D. So you can see all the different modules. So there's a lot of them out there that it supports, and you can just use this to find whatever you need. But over here for the project, you just need these ones to check and to use them. Now, have a built-in password list to check for weak passwords. You can either Google, use anything that you want to find weak passwords online. You can also use the default, Hydra has already like a weak passwords. So you can just do, look, I will show you what I mean by weak password. First, you can go to Google and find, most common passwords. You can also, let me just do locate Hydra. You can find it, it's an CSV. Let me just do grep CSV. So you can see here, this is like a file that that has a default password list. DPL is default password list for Hydra. Look at this, it's actually like pretty cool and good to know about it. So let me just copy this thing into desktop, right? Let me just go to the desktop and just show it to you. So this DPL document, you can see that it has here for different devices, it has, right, like the username and passwords, the default one. So you see many admin. So this also, you know how to filter this. I'm sure you'll be able to, like use this also if you want to for your project. So it's going to look for these simple things. You know how to use Hydra, you know how to use Medusa. I'm sure you'll be able to do just fine with it. Let me just put this over here and say, we'll say Hydra default password list. Good. So you can either do this or allow the user to supply their own password list, right? They will just give a path or something. And of course, make sure to also check that there's a file. I'm sure you know how to do this, right? Like we can easily just do if file the path, and say if there isn't a file there, right? So you can, again, you can use the everything that you've learned in order to make sure that everything works appropriate. Let's continue. You know what? You can use Hydra, right? It's already clear. How would you use Hydra? You would go through every IP that you're scanning, and then if it has either 22, either 23, either 21, you want to go inside, or 389, you want to go inside and try those username and passwords, right? The default ones, or whether they supply. But let me just show you some cool trick that can actually make your life much easier. Now, try to also do it with Hydra because it's a good practice, right? It's not that tough. Let's do 2 ways of whatever it is that I want to show. Let me just put it here in a comment. 2 ways to find weak passwords, right? So let me just do number 1. We will just use Hydra and a for loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm obviously have to scan, right? I will have to scan the network and see that everything is in place. And whenever I'm going to scan it, what I will have to do is whatever has that service, I want to try to attack it. Let me just do it quickly. And I'm just going to say, I'm already going to, it's already going to be here. Let me just, so it's going to be validated. So we have here the range, right? And if you remember, everything here is going to be saved into scan, which is important to remember. So let's just put here, remember, the .scan will have all the network IPs. Now we can start talking about what are we going to do with them. So let's, you can see here that with basic, it's going to also include weak passwords. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just use it already in basic. So let me just create a new function. Let's put it over here. We'll call it scan. And let me call it scan1 because I'm going to show you 2 different ways. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and call scan1. Oops, scan1. So this way, let me just do validating the range. And we'll put here scanning the range. So the thing is first what we want to do is just extract all the IPs, right? I mean, you can just, because if you passed until here, if you've passed the validation, you can just say, why are you wasting my time? Why do I need to even do this? Let's just put here an nmap command and just get it done. But it's not the deal, because if you just do nmap, it's just going to give you a huge amount of data, but you want to be able to then treat each one by itself. Look, even if you read all through and you see the log results, you will see allow the user to search inside the results. It will be much easier for you if you put every one of these IPs in a different file. So then afterwards, you will be able to just navigate to these results and display to the user. So I'm going to show you those 2 ways. After that, you can decide whatever you want to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do scanning the range in scan1. I'm reminding you, and let's just put it here, that we have in cat.scan, let's just do it again, and this time, oops, 17. Oh, I didn't put anything here, so let me just do echo. So it's not going to be angry with me. Let me just do basic. What I'm doing is I'm just generating the list. I want you to see it. I'm just generating I want to generate what's inside the scan so I can work with it. So let me just do 88888 and now that I did, I can do cat scan, right? So look at what I'm going to do here. You know what, why am I working hard? Let me just move over here. Let me do cat.scan, and I can just do it from here. So what I'm going to do here is I need to extract all the IPs. There's many ways to do it, people. Whatever goes good for you, do it. What I want to do is I'm just going to say awk print $NF, right? So it's going to just take the last one. But then we talked about it and we said that if I want to just grep the ones that are IPs, I can just say only grep whatever starts between 0 to 9. And this way I've managed to do it, right? So here I get all the IPs, which is perfect for me. So I can take this entire thing and then put it inside of scan. Look at this. Now, this thing, you can decide to put it inside a file. You can decide to even do the scanning on this list, right? So what I can do, and probably this is what I'm going to do, is I will put it just in a for loop, right? I can do for IP in all of this. What stops me? Right, it's just going to go and it's going to do, and we're going to say done. So what's going to happen is it's going to go through each one of these IPs, right? It's going to go into the scan. It's going to take the NF, of course, only after it finished validating. So this way, it's going to go here. It's going to go for a for loop. It's going to go to the last one. It's going to go look for the IPs, and then it's going to do whatever I want it to do. So in order to make things just simple, what I'm going to just do is for each one of the IPs, I want to save it. I want to save it in my directory that I'm going to get from the user. And then what I'm going to do is then I can work on that, right? So look at what I'm going to do. Let me do this. I'm just going to create a folder just because we'll ask the user already to give us a folder, enter a range of scan. Okay, if it's going to validate, fine. If it's going to validate, I'm going to say -p, enter a directory to save the data, and let's just call it data. And what I'm going to do here, then data is going to be the directory, right? So let me just mkdir $data. And from now on, I can just put everything inside, right? Inside data. So let me just go back in here. I can just do the following. I can just do nmap. I'm going to do the simplest one. I'm going to allow you to then upgrade and change things that you want, but I'm going to say -f. I'm going to say $IP, right? Because we want to scan that IP, and then what I want to put it all the output. I want to put inside $data. That's a directory, and then I'm going to call the file by that IP address. So it's going to be easy for me to then go inside and see the file, see the IP, see what each one has. So for this example, let me just do $IP. Let me run this just for you to understand exactly where we're going with this. Again, we're going to validate, then we're going to ask the user for a directory. Once it's going to give us the directory, it's going to then call scan1. Scan1 is going to go through all these things, and each one is going to be one IP, right? Let me even put here something to say echo scanning, we'll say $IP, right? So you'll be able to see, or the user will be able to see what you're doing at every point. Now, if you're looking at this and saying, wow, this is too complicated, you can make it so much simpler. I'm going to show you simple ways to do it as well. At the end of the day, you are the engineer. You're the one who has to decide how you want to do each thing. So let's start this. My goal is, for one, that we will be able to see this output. Second is that you can see that every data here is going to be saved into data. $IP is going to just be an IP inside the directory with whatever was found with a -f. Let me run this and see what's going on. Basic range, we said, let's give it my IP. So it's going to be 192.168.244.1/24. It's just going to go through everything. Range was correct. Let's continue. Enter a directory to save. Let's call it database. And it's scanning. You can see what's going on. It's scanning each one, and it will just put it output on the screen, showing whatever is being scanned. And right now it's only with a capital F. So yeah, with capital F for fast. It's only the top 100 ports. Remember, your code must include all of TCP and all of UDP. Now, it's okay if this script takes forever to scan it. It's okay if it's going to take for an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. It's fine, because that's the whole thing about automation. Let it do magic by itself. You don't need to sit in front of the computer. And at this point, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just continue. But I want you to see that if I'm going to go into here, you can see that this is what's going on. Our code that we're creating is every time it's scanning, it will put something inside. And this is why it's really beautiful, because it will just scan and just put everything inside here. So what I can do is I can just, if I click on each one, you'll see, it will tell me, let me just see this. Let me just do ls-l, and you can see their length is 206, 206, 278, which is different. It's going to tell me 206 is just like, you can see, it's just like a empty thing. It's like nmap says I couldn't find anything. Let me just do cat to 192, and I'll put 0, for example. Well, I'll put 9, okay. Let me put, this is what it gave us. Let's put 25. It's pretty much the same thing. Let me put, okay, once it's going, okay, let me put 2. You can see here that it did find something, right? So I can look at this, and the truth is, probably the easiest thing to do is just to like do cat on everything, and just grep the word open. Look how nice this is, right? It's just going to tell me whatever is open. And then you can tell me, wait a second, but how do you know which is the IP that it's open? Well, it's actually very easy, because what you do is you do like this. This is a 1. This is the line that it captured. This is a 1 before. This is a 2 before. This is a 3 before. This is a 4 before. So I can just do something like before 4, right? And then I can just get also the IP address. So it's going to be, let me just do, so I can grep or look at that IP. Now, I'm not telling you that this is what you should do. I'm just showing you different ways to look at this thing. But in the meantime, you know that our code is running. It's only at 58. And it's going to continue scanning. Let's move forward. We'll come back to this. The idea is just that you can see that you can scan. Now, if you remember, our goal was to look for weak passwords. And this, until here, we're just able to scan and see which ports were open. So the thing is, you can easily just go inside and say, okay, if 22 is open, tell me what is the IP. And if, like, then you can go and start using your weak passwords using Hydra and things. Again, and you'll just create another function for Hydra and create something like this. Let me just make this a little bit. Change this, and we'll create another function, and we'll call it Hydra. And we'll be able to, right? Like I can just now take or go through every ports that are open for 22, 21, 23, 3389. I can just send through Hydra. That is one thing to do it, and you can, and it's okay, because here you have a lot of control of whatever it is that you want to put. But, and this is something that I think is important for you as a penetration tester to also understand, that it's not only about Hydra. There are other tools that can help you, and they're already built for that. So for example, if I use nmap, nmap, the tool that we already used for scanning, already has a built-in brute force mechanism inside. So I can use that and get 2 birds at once, right? Over here, if I just did the Hydra, let's just do it for the sake of the training. So what I'm going to do is, it's at 95, okay? So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say dash vulner. Wait, I'm going to cheat in order to get like something relevant. I'm going to say B, and I'm going to say the range. I'm going to say 192, 168, 244, 125 until 135, right? So this way, what's going to be is it's going to only scan the computers that I have running with different ports. And then it's going to ask me, I'm going to say database, and that cannot, okay, file already exists. You can see this one is just because I've already created database before, but I can easily, if I want the same thing, I can easily just remove this error just by putting a 2 and putting div null, just in order for this error not to be displayed. But look what's going on now. It's scanning all the devices that I gave it in the range that I wanted, and it's going to finish soon just because I gave it until 135. Good, it finished. So for now, I'm going to be using this range. Let me even save it here so I can just copy it afterwards. It's going to be 192, 168, 244, 125 until 135 if needed. Good. So at this point, what's going to happen is it's going to scan everything. It's going to be saving into data, and you can see that first thing, you can see all these guys over here. And if we go over here, not here, if we go here, and this time we look, you can see that with this command, I'm able to see each IP that is open, and this time I can see 132 that has these different options. So what I can do is I can say this. What stops me from saying the following? I can say grep 22. Again, there's so much simpler ways to do it, but let me just do it like this. Let me do something like this. I want you to see what I'm trying to do here. So what I've done here is I basically said, look for 22. And the truth is, let me already say it. I can easily just put here hyphen open for nmap just in order to show only the open ports, right? And then this only here will be open all the time. If you're not clear of what I just said now, you can look at the nmap grep hyphen, you can just do open command, and you can see that with hyphen open, you can show only the open. So it's going to save me all the trouble with filtered, close, and everything. So if you look carefully here, I can say, okay, only the ones. Oh, let me do 5. Only the ones. Okay. Only the ones that have this port number open, I can show the IP. But here you saw something. You saw that I had to change here from 4 to 5, which is a problem because in a script, it's going to run automatically. It's not going to be there all the time. So let me look if I can find a better way. Look at what I'm going to do. I have talked about this quite a bunch before, but I'm going to use the hyphen n. And look what n gives me. No, n is not good. Let me do recursion, right? Like it will just go all over the place. And look at what happens here. When I do this, I'm able to see which file had open of 22. So again, you all the time have to think outside the box how you're going to do this, and that's fine if it's hard for you at the beginning. But this is what builds your capabilities, right? What I've done here, I said, look, I can start going file by file. I can do a for loop, and if it has a 22 inside with a grep, then do the Hydra. I can, but I can also just do something simple and say, listen, grep this, and tell me what number of line it is and look for recursion. So recursion will allow me to also see the files that it finds it in, right? So I can see here that I have 192.168 has the IP, the port number that I want to scan. So for this example, what stops me from, but I'm going to just do something small, and I'm going to say CP of 192, 132. I want to just have at least 2, right? I want to have at least 2 different options. Let's do 3. I'm going to run over 3. So when I do this now, what I did here, I just copied 132 also to 3. So I'll have at least 2 IPs. So you'll understand how cool this is. Let me just copy it for another one. Let's do also to 4 and to 5. And then you're able to see that I'm literally getting here all the IPs I can work with. What stops me from doing the following? Awk with a delimiter of colon, and I can say print number 1, because number 1 will give me the IP addresses, right? So I can now run the Hydra over here. Again, do whatever you want. Do however you think is best, but you will see while playing with it, you get to learn more and more things just by trying. So let me just use this command. I can easily take this over here and say, sure, let's move on to Hydra. Let me just put your comment and say, using Hydra on, on devices found with 22, 21, 23, 3389. Now you might tell me, but wait a second, you're only checking here 22. What, do you want us to do it for each one? So we'll have to have like 4 different loops? You can. You are the engineer. You can. But you can all the time think, how can I do, or what else can I do? So here, what I can show you is what stops me from going here. So now I'll just show you. I think you already know it, but if not, it's a good chance to know. So if I just do like this, a backslash and then pipe, it's an or. So I can say something like 21 TCP. So okay, let me just remove this so you'll be able to see what where I'm trying to get. Look at this. So once, this one also found 2121. So let me show you and just put, I'll do W, okay? W will say exactly what I've told you. Now, don't show me words that are 2121. I said 21, that's what I want to get. So this is what the W here gets you. You've seen this before. If not, that's a good practice, or you don't remember, it's a good practice. So look at over here. We're able to get the 3 has 21 open, also has 22. We're able to see these ones have, so what stops us from just doing all the rest? We'll say 3389 TCP. We'll say 23 TCP. Look how beautiful this is. Literally beautiful, because you can just play with it like a plastiline and just do whatever it is that you want. Then you will say, but wait a second. So yes, we were able to filter, one sec, let me just do this print $1, right, in order to get this. And now the only thing that we have left to do is to do sort unique, and we got all the IPs we can use for this. So let me just do this, copy, and I can just go back into here to my Hydra and just change this. So look how beautiful it is. It's going to just run the Hydra. It's going to check for the line number of recursion, which will tell me also the files. And the W will tell me, it will ask only for this specific ports. Don't tell me if a port is part of something else. And grep the $1, which is the IP, sort unique, and then I can just run a function on that. So I can just do, not a function, I can run a for loop. I can say for, like, I'll say for I, okay? Put all of this inside here, and I'll do done. And over here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, just for the sake of just seeing that it works, I'm going to say echo. Let me just do like this, and we'll do brute forcing $I. Again, it just now is going to be an echo, right? It's just going to be an echo. I can even do, yeah, it's fine. Let's just do it like this. Let me even put here a sleep of 0.1 or 0.5, just in order for us to see what comes out of this. Let me just do basic 192.168. Where are you hiding? We said 244.125 until 135. Perfect. Directory DB. Now look, it's not going to show me the error because I've redirected the error into dev null, and it's now going to start scanning them. And it's going to finish once it's going to get to 35, and then start the Hydra. Actually, it's not going to start the Hydra because I never called the Hydra. Now it's just going to stop as soon as this is done. It's going to finish. Okay. Now, it's not going to call the Hydra because I never called the Hydra. So in order to do it, you can either decide that you want to put it here. You can. You can see it's called HDR. I can see it over here, right? HDR over here. Or I can just tell my scan to go over here, and then, HDR. Both ways is fine. Just choose one, right? You don't need twice. Let me just do it again. I'll do it quickly. B scan 192, 168, 244, 125 until 135. Let it run. DB. Okay, and it's gonna go there. This time it's gonna go, and it's not really gonna start the Hydra, it's just gonna echo it. But I just want you to see the way I used to work with it. Like what I usually do is I want to see the output so I can continue working with it. So 131, 132. I'm gonna still cheat. I'm gonna go after this and just edit the results in order for us to be able to scan more than one IP. Oops, what is this? Okay, okay. Look at what just happened here. Look at what, actually, this is kind of cute. It's good that we are seeing it here. What happened here is it said 192, and then what it did, it went into here, and okay, it's a problem because I told it to cat everything. And when I say this, I am telling it to cat everything from wherever I am, which means I have to like change it to DB. So it's only going to go into the directory that I've created, right? Otherwise, it's just going to do it all over the place, which is bad. And then you can see here that it's going to start brute forcing every different one. So let me just see what the Hydra thing. It's going to be -1. It's going to take DB. Okay, so it's going to already do it like this. It's going to already do it like this. It's fine. Let's run it one more time. And this time I'm just going to give it even a shorter one. Range 192, 168, 244. Let me just give it 130 until 133. Database. And we'll just 3 IPs. It's going to scan. And now it's going to go to the brute forcing. Okay, it's going to do a grep this again on such device. Okay, again, these are errors, so I can easily just divert them. It's interesting to check why it's giving me this. Cat of this. Let me try this just for the sake of understanding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do back. I'm going to say like this. Okay. Let me just copy this command. I'm just interested to see what the deal is. Okay, so it's finding this thing information there. So let me also remove this. Okay. Oh, okay. It's also scanning. Let me just do LSDB. Oops. LSDB. Okay, fine. Okay, so what I can do is I can just like I can also just say the following. I can just say, look at what I'm going to do here, just to make my life easier. I could just say grep only the ones that starts with 0 to 9, which means I'm only going to inspect the files there. Let me just try this one more time. Basic range 192, 168, 244, 131 until 133. Sure. Okay, DB. Let's see if this one will be fine. Okay, no, this is a problem because it is not starting with this, it's starting with a DB. Okay, let me just say DB, fine. Well, it's not a good solution. The reason it's not a good solution is because what if it's a different directory name? So look, I'm gonna let you handle it. I'll tell you what different options that you can. One of the things that you can just do, first thing is just play with a cat and realize why, if I'm telling it to do it like this, it's still going all the way outside of the DB. The second thing that I would probably suggest you to do is just to do, it's another option, is to go into, what's the folder name that the user gave us? Data. So I can just do something like this, right? This will solve my problem. Let me just remove this. Look at what will happen now. It's going to go into data. It's going to go and then do the cat there. This one is going to solve it. Let me just do it and we can just see. Again, I suggest that you also play with it, and I want to move on. So I'm trusting you that you will find a better solution for whatever is needed to solve this. Let's just do this one, and then I'll show you another trick to use. Okay, you can see this one solved my problem, and I managed to just do brute forcing inside. And of course, when we say brute forcing, this one I'm going to allow you, I'm going to give you the pleasure, but you know you can either use Hydra, -L, whether it is your file if the user gave it, or sorry, it's your file if the user didn't give you anything, or the user's file. Let me just put like this and say L, and we'll say login file. This is the syntax. I'm going to say here pass file. Then I'm going to say over here, I'm going to say the IP. So it's going to be $I, right? At this point here, it's going to go through the loop of all the IPs that it found. And then what I'm going to do is I will tell it the service. That's interesting. Now, this is something you will figure out how to do it, but you can do it. I'm going to throw you two options. You can figure out whichever one. Over here, what you need to do is to tell it which service, right? Like SSH, FTP, RDP, etc. One of the things that I want you to think about is whether it is that you do want to change this to a few different loops. That's one possibility. Another possibility is you can already grep the service, like the IP. Remember, because we already did this over here, you already know the location of the SSH. I'm just reminding you. Oops. Let me just remove this. I'm just reminding you that you can see here that you have the FTP, you have the services, so you can also grep that. Again, you're the engineer. It's up to you how you want to do this, and I am continuing. So this is one way. Let's just say here one. I'm going to use another technique that I think is good for us to learn. Function, and I'm going to say HDR. Well, it's not, just sure, let's call it HDR2. It's not Hydra. This time it's going to be using Nmap. So let me just do and say using Nmap for the brute force. So what I'm going to do is let me just talk to you a little bit about the different Nmap scripting engine, right? That you also will need it later on for different vulnerabilities. So let me just show you what I mean. So Nmap by itself scans for ports. If I do SV, it will also scan for services. One of the things that Nmap has is the scripting engine, which is the NSE. Let's see, where are you hiding? Over here, script scan. So look at over here, let's go through some things that are interesting, just in order to make sure that our code is proper. So one of the things that you want to learn or make sure that you know is the script update DB. This will update all the NSE scripts. The next thing that you want to make sure that you control is the script help. In your computer, we've talked about it before, but it's a good chance to go over this. If I just do locate asterisk for NSE, you will get all the NSE scripts. Now, if I want to check for a specific one, I can just do nmap -- script help. You don't need to do the equal sign. You can also do space. Let me just choose something. Let's take something. What can we take? Something that will be, sure, let's take some HTTP vulnerability. And you can see here that as soon as well, the truth is I can just give it the name. I can give it the entire path as well. But if you will see it online, many times you will see it that you're checking for the help for a specific script. So as soon as I hit enter, I'm going to get all the information about that vulnerability. But then you want to ask yourself, how does it work? Do I specify each one? You can, and there's also categories. Let me just go into the categories inside here, inside Nmap. Let me just do Nmap categories. I should have done NSC, but probably it will understand what I'm trying to get. And you can see here the different ones. So you have authentication, broadcast, brute, default, and many more, right? For the thing for brute forcing, you have an entire category for it. The only thing that you would need to do is do something like this. So for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this IP. I'm going to say nmap, and I'm going to say hyphen SV. SV is service version, very important when you're using script. In many scripts, the output will just not come in a good way if you're not using the SV. So let me just do hyphen script. I'm going to say equal to brute, which is brute force, and I'm going to give it the IP 192.168.244.132. I'm going to let it run. It's going to take a while to run, but in the meantime, we will continue, because what's important for me here is that you see that also Nmap has built-in brute force capabilities. So you're able to execute it on your local network and public network, which is kind of crazy, because if it's going to find weak passwords, it's going to tell you, and you have to use Hydra or anything else. Now, my suggestion is, if you really want to do something good, you can allow the user to choose, or even run both of them, because you'll see the output. It's kind of impressive. It will just give you things that it finds. It already has a built-in weak passwords, and it just does the job. So as far as you're concerned, this is also legit. But again, you are the engineer. You are the one. In about 10 minutes, it's going to take about 10 minutes to scan. In about 10 minutes, we will have a much better understanding of how this script, this nmap script, is able to help us. I'm going to continue in the meantime. Weak password, we talked about it, we showed. Let's talk about vulnerabilities. So mapping vulnerabilities, we also have the nmap scripting engine for vulnerabilities. Let me just go back in here and look at it. So I have the vuln over here. So either you want to just use the same thing, but then in this time, instead of using the category of brute, you want to use the category of vuln, go for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new tab. Don't freak out. I'm just going to open a third tab over here. Control Shift T is going to open a new terminal. I just want to use the time that it's already doing the scans to show you some things that are important for you to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the help. So if I'm interested to do this brute or vulnerability and I want to see what it's all about, I can easily just do nmap -- script help, and then I can tell it whichever category I'm looking for. So let's say, for example, let's do the brute. Look carefully at the output, and you will see that it gives you all the different scripts to use. If I scroll up, I'm going to see the different ones, the different names, and you can also see that every name, every script it tells you which categories it goes to. So if your mind is already, like he's already like into text manipulation, you can easily even figure out which categories there are here, right? So I can just go scroll up and little by little see what it's doing. So this thing is about script help for brute. I can do here the vuln and see the same thing, all the different scripts that it's using for looking for vulnerabilities. This is something good to know. Again, if you just put here vuln, it will try it. And once it finishes, it's going to give you a good output and tell you all the things that it found. So I'm continuing to another thing that I wanted to show you over here. What you want to be able to do is also, like when you're talking about the NSE, you can see that you can, like, for example, let me do nmap -- script. So for example, if you want to also scan for vulnerability and brute, you can easily just do brute vuln, right? And this way it's going to take the machine you're scanning and it's going to use all the scripts in brute, all the scripts in vulnerability, and it's going to give you an output. I'm reminding you that if you save your output to XML, then you will be able to translate later to an HTTP to an HTML. Let me just show you an example for this. So I'm just going to say nmap. I'm not going to use now the script. I'm just going to say nmap 192.168.244.132. I'm just going to say do a fast one, do an SV hyphen OX. OX, let me just do the results into I'm going to say XML. My problem is I'm inside DB and I don't want to like interrupt the scanning or whatever it's doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say save it, go backwards and save it in the Kali directory. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to hit enter. It's going to do the scanning. It's going to take about 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. So you can see that it's very fast, only one computer with no NSE scripts, right? Over here, you can see that it's still running. It's going to take about 10 minutes. So if I hit enter, I can see the progress already 5 minutes. We're already half the way. It takes a long time. Remember that Nmap works in a serial way. It goes one computer and then does the other computer and then does the other computer. You can make it much faster by two major things. One is playing with a T, with a hyphen T, right? T here, let me just show you. If I do nmap and I go into T, you can see it here. You can use with a timing template, which is you make it much faster. You can, remember, it's going to make much more traffic on the network. And second, you can use it for, you can use the end percent, like, right? Like the shift 7. Look at the shift 7, this character. This will send it to the background, and then it will just do it parallel. Remember, and you can play with it. I mean, what I mean by that, if you still didn't understand, is you can easily just go here, and instead of doing all this nmap for each one, you can do this, right? What will happen is nmap will go to the background and will do all of them at the same time. Think about it. You should even try it. It's good to see it. It's good to see it just because nmap, instead of waiting all this time, will just run at the background, scan all of them together, because each one it's sending to a background process thanks to this character. Sending to background process, right? Good. So you can play with it. You will see. Let me just see if anything here is done. No, this is still running. Let's see. 7 minutes. Well, about 3 more minutes. It should be okay. Over here. Sorry. So I'm going back to whatever I said before. When you output to an OX XML, I'm just reminding you. Let me just go back. I'll do cat res XML. You can see it just comes out in XML format, right? That's the reason when you're using, this is the reason it comes like this. It's just because we told it to save it, the output, into XML. O, capital X is for XML. At this point, what will happen is that we can convert it into HTML. The way to do it, you've seen this before. I'm just reminding you. You can do it XSL tproc, and then you just tell it res, save it into res HTML. And what I'm going to do now is, if I'm just going to go to the Kali directory, I'm going to see the HTML, and then you're going to see that it just saves it to you in a very nice format, which is something nice, especially when you're trying to engineer something that you can use afterwards, whether the CISO, whether the administrator, whatever, wherever they can see and look at the different details that are displayed here. Let me go back in here. This should be done soon, about 2 more minutes. In the meantime, let's look at what else we have here. Vulnerabilities. We talked about the NSC. You have the vuln to use, and you want to also talk about, or you want to learn about the search exploit. You've played with this before. I'm just going to remind you. Search exploit will also, if you give it the --nmap flag with an XML file, it will also tell you which vulnerabilities should be checked on it, right? So it's not only the vuln, it's also the search exploit. You can display some serious data about a certain computer, and that can be very nice input to show about each one. Remember, what we've done here is we've made everything run for each IP. Why? To make it much easier for us to figure out which data it is, play with the different data. It just makes our life much easier. Let's go back in here. It should be finished soon. Okay, it should be finished soon. And let's see what else do we have here that we want to talk about. Yes, let me just say one more thing about the -u update. People, you are at a stage where you've learned a lot of things in penetration testing, but the sad news is this world is so big, so huge, you've just learned like a drop, a drop in the sea. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you all the time want to learn more and more. And if you use this command, the -u, what will happen is this search exploit, which is connected to exploit DB, will also download for you. Let me just show you. Let me show you. It's inside user share. It's in exploit DB. Let me just do exploit DB over here. It will also, no, it's not here, it's near it. Look at this, exploit DB papers. Once you do the update, once you use the -u, it's going to give you documents and papers in different languages. Let's go to the English one, and you will see so much documentation of different attacks. It's something you can learn from. Maybe even you look for other things to upgrade your code. Search exploit is a great tool. Once you do the -u, it will also download this entire directory to your Kali Linux. One more thing, let me just see if this is done. Yes, people, this is done. This is only the brute force. Look how nice this is. Look, over here you can see that FTP brute, it found a valid credentials. User work for it. So I can easily now, look at this, accounts. Look, all these are valid accounts. Root, like again, I use like a, like the metasploitable machine, but once you launch it inside a network, it might find sensitive information. And again, you can see that there's all the time so many ways to solve each problem. Now, I hope you will play with this. I hope that you will, learn from how to combine two things together, whether it's the NSC and the Hydra, whether it's the vulnerability, the vuln category, right here where you just use the brute. What stops you from using also the vuln scripting engine with the search exploit so you can give much bigger information? What I'm going to do is let's continue here. Mapping, we talked about it. I'm sure you'll be able to figure this out. During each stage, display a stage in terminal. That just means, just to do the echo. So I'm sure you'll be able to just, like every stage, we're going to brute forcing, we're going into scanning, so the user who is looking at the computer can understand what's going on. At the end, show the user the found information. Of course, you can display here the IPs. You can display here the different ports that are open for each one. You can display here the like whatever vulnerabilities you found. Allow the user to search inside the results, right? So the thing is, what does that mean? So you can, let's even look at this. So allow to use, the thing is, the last two things, let's just finish with them to just make sure that we are on top of things. So allow the user to search inside the results. What are the results? All of your results are saved in, are into DB. Everything here, right? So what stops you from allowing the user to go and searching here? Let me just show you for example, okay? So if I just run this code, it's gonna, I did, whatever is there with 39. Let me see. I didn't put anything here, so let me just put here an echo. It's gonna ask me choose basic or full, right? I can easily add another function before this basic or full and say, do you want to look for previous scanning, or do you want to look to create a new scanning, right? What stops me from that? I can easily just do something like this. Let me look. So over here, it's going to just go here. It's going to do basic. I'm going to just put this all into a function. Let me just put here, we'll call it scan. Sure, why not? Let me close this. This is going to be a scan. And what I want to do is I'm going to allow the user to choose. So let me just do. I'm going to create another function and say, let's call it start. And I will do this, and I can ask the user something like this and say read -p inspect previous scans. Let me even just do I for this, or new scan. And then whatever the user will give us, we'll just say, we'll call it check also. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be overwritten. And then I can just do, again, case $check in, and then I can do again, people, the entire thing repeats itself all over as soon as you play a little bit, you feel more comfortable with it, and then you'll be able to achieve your goal. So let me just do this. We'll say this, we will say this, and we will say Isak. Good. So over here, if I want to do new scan, I can just send it to new scan, and we called it scan. So let me just call this here. So if a user says he wants a new, I'm just going to put this here. Look how nice this is. I can just say now running the new scan. And over here, if you want to inspect, I can just say, now have to create a new function, right? Just to be able to look. And let's call it inspect. Sure, why not? Allow the user to view results. Of course, people, you can make it much nicer. You can save it into databases. But again, here's just something simple in order to make it that you can already see how whatever you're building is taking and getting a shape is a real tool that can be used in organizations. So let me just create this one, inspect. We don't have it yet. Let me just do function inspect. Inspect, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to just allow the user to choose. So let me just, what I want really to do is, if the user wants to inspect, what I want to be able to do is, I'll say, okay, this one is a little bit tricky. Why? Because we allowed the user to save all the information into database. The truth is, I can remove that, or you can remove. I'm going to keep it for now, but I'm telling you, I would probably remove it, remove the directory, remove the directory from the main place. I'll show you what I mean by that. What if we would go here to, when we do the mkdir, let me just do Control F mkdir. And what if that when we do this, we make it inside DB, right? So any directory the user creates will be inside of DB. Think about what I just said right now. So whenever it's going to, the user is going to call it, let me just say, for example, scan 2, scan 3, scan 4, it's going to just create and save all the information inside DB. Let me just do -p. It's going to create a folder named DB, and inside of it, it's going to create also the scan 1, scan 2, scan 3, or whatever it is, right? So what will happen now is, when the user wants to inspect all the information, we can just do the search inside DB. And this way, everything is great, because we are still able to tell it all the where to look at. So let me just use the DB. Of course, I'll have to change it also here. I'll have to go to something like this, right? DB data. Let me see where else I've used data. And just do next, next. Okay, I still have to do DB. Let me see. Okay, 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 good. So I've fixed everything to go into DB data. So this way, again, what's going to happen is, every time the user creates a new scan, it's still going to be saved into database, which is actually good. right? So when you're inspecting, you're able to inspect from everything you've ever searched before, which is really good. So let me just go back in here to inspect, and then we'll say to the user, look, this is actually nice because we can say choose an IP to inspect. Okay, let's call it IPI for inspect, whatever. And then we can say, first thing, let's check if there's anything inside there, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the find. Again, people, the fact that I'm using something doesn't mean you have to use it. You can do whatever you want. You can use whatever you want. I'm just giving you ideas here. So I can easily just do something like find, right? I want to see if there's any files that have that. So I can say find, look, I can say find. I will say the path. I give it like the path of DB. I'm reminding you, find, the way we work with find is we have to tell it where to look. So I'm going to say find in DB type of file. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to look for a name like of IPI. Let's try it. It might be interesting because what we will get here is this will just give us the file names. Let's try it just for the sake of the just the beginning of it. Again, nothing will happen now because nothing is calling start. So let me just put here start. So what will happen now is everything is functions until here. It's going to go to start. Start is going to execute. It's going to ask me new or inspection. I'm going to say inspect. It's going to call inspect. It's going to go over here. It's going to tell me choose an IP to inspect. And then it's going to tell me of the files where they are. I'm going to change it in a second to also view this, but just for you to see. Let me try this. Look how cute this is. It's going to say inspect or new scan. I'm going to say inspect. It's going to say choose IP to inspect. I'm just going to give it like 192.168.244.132. And you're going to see that it's going to give me the address. Perfect. What I can do is I can already I can already either decide to show the user where the file is, or I can already do something like cat, right? I can just do cat to this location. Let's check it out. Inspect 192.168.244.132. And look how nice this is. It just did the cat to it, right? It just did the cat. Of course, I can put here spaces in the lines. There's so much to do here, but you can already see that we are already getting a program that we can build. And the thing is just to finish with this whole thing is what I can do is I can also do read in, which will just wait for something, right? And then I can say, I'll show you what I mean by read in. Look, if I just type here read in, it's just going to wait until I hit enter, until it's waiting for me to give it something. You can use any character. It's not only about n. But look what happened as soon as I did enter, it went down to the terminal. So what I can do here, I can say like wait, and then once it finishes, once the user hits enter, or I can say hit enter to continue, I can call it and say now go to start. Look at what will happen now. Look at this. Start will ask me, do you want to inspect or do you want to scan? I'm going to say inspect. It's going to throw me here. It's going to already cut this over here. And it's going to do read in. It's going to wait for me to hit enter. And once I do hit enter, it's going to throw me to start. Let's just see how this looks. I'm going to just put this up. Let's do inspect. Choose an IP. 244.132. And it's going to show me. Now look how everything is waiting for me. As soon as I hit enter, it's going to ask me, you want to inspect or scan a new scan? Amazing. I can continue in playing with this. Good. People, there's a lot to do here. There's much for you to play with, to try things. I'll just show you one more thing and then I will let you go. This whole thing with the zip, right? Save all the results into zip. I would probably, just in order to just do this, it's actually very simple. What I want to do is I want to allow my user that if he wants to export all the data, I can easily just do something like this. I can say, I can do, let me first show you how zip works. So just for example, right, let's say I want to put all these files into a zip. So I can just do something like this. I can say zip -r. R means like recursive. It means even if there were folders inside folders, it will still be able to do it. And then I'll just do, and then I have to tell it where to save it to. So let me just, I don't want to save it in the same directory. So I'm just going to say go back and call it db.zip, right? And then the next thing is what or where are the files that I want to zip. I'm just going to say dot. Dot means here. I'm inside the directory, right? As soon as I hit enter, you can see it's going to tell me that it added all these things. And if I just go back and I do ls to db, oops. Oh, sorry. ls db zip. ls, fine. You can see that everything was over here, saved in here. And of course, just in order to make it more simple, because I have here this db over here, I can also, like it's the same thing, just without the zip -r recursive. I can say what I want to save it in. So let's just say new zip.zip. And then I want to tell it which directory or which place. I can set it instead of a dot. I'm going to say db. So it's going to go into that folder and zip everything. Look at this again. Now we have this new zip and everything is inside of it. So if you just think about it logically, the one thing that you can easily do and say inspect, and then you can also tell your user something like this. I can say zip -r and say, well, I don't want the -r here because I just want to, export all the results. Or you know what? Let's use with -r, and I'll just do like this. I'll do. Let me just put here an echo, so it's going to have a space, and it's going to be here. It says all database, all DB was saved into zip. And the only thing I have to do is just like give the command, right? So I'll have to do something like zip -r. I'll give it the full location just in order for if I'm not so sure where it's going to be executing from. So I'm going to say db. Well, I first have to tell it the name I want to save it to. So let's save it into db.zip, and I can already save it here. So I'll say home Kali desktop for this example, and then over here it's going to go to this directory, and it's going to just take everything from there and zip it and put it all inside. You can just see if I just take all this, let me just be in the desktop, you will see ls on the desktop, you can see that everything is being saved into zip. So all of this data is being saved here. My suggestion is you just add one more, like question to your user and say, do you want to, like, just even give an option. If you really want to make this something really, really nice, instead of making it, oh, you want to go here, you want to go there, make a small menu. Say, do you want to scan? Do you want to inspect? Do you want to export? Allow the user to choose whatever he wants. Let them play with it. The more you play with it, the more things that you will learn throughout this training. Good luck. Work on this project. Very important. And continue your cyber journey. I'll see you all in the next session.